Hello viewers of our Gnosis channel. Let's continue with our last astrological reflection. We have arrived at the 12th sign, and we congratulate Pisceans for their patience, as they had to wait. We started with Aries and made this trip through the zodiac, and today we arrived at the last constellation. This means a lot. We said that Aries is the first sign, number 1, and represents individuality. Aries is the first, and Pisces is the 12th. Pisces represents the conclusion of the zodiac, the finalization. It represents when we have already transcended human nature and arrive at something superior, which is spiritual nature. Pisces represents when the barriers of the physical body do not exist. It represents the higher dimensions of nature, the maximum spirituality. It represents when there is no longer you and me. There is only us. There is only the spiritual essence, or that spiritual world where we are all one, where we are all united. It is the sign of supreme unity. Let's talk about the planet that rules Pisces. It is ruled by the planet Neptune, which is an extremely spiritual planet that rules mysticism, scenic arts, poetry, painting, inspiration. Everything that is artistic is ruled by Venus, but also by Neptune, because it represents a state in which the person goes beyond the mind. And speaking of the mind, the planet Neptune also represents the superior octave. It is the superior octave of Mercury. Therefore, Neptune is the transcendence of the mind. When we go beyond the mind in its battles of yes and no, right and wrong. The mind is logical, let us say. It compares and it analyzes. That is why Mercurian signs are very mental. And Neptune, ruling Pisces, represents when we go beyond this mind and logic and enter another dimension, the dimension of art and poetry, imagination and fantasy. And all this obviously will give peculiar characteristics to the natives of Pisces. As we have said in other videos, it is not that all Pisceans are the same, but they will possess some of these characteristics that I will name in this video. And to know this helps the person to awaken and strengthen the best and eliminate the negative parts of that sign. And as so, Pisceans have a vocation to help others. Not so much in the sense of Aquarius. We say that Aquarians are altruists, but Aquarius represents that active help, the person who wants to change society, that is part of a cause or of a revolutionary movement. In Pisces, we see that more as a feeling of charity. The more evolved Piscean, the spiritualized person of this sign, manifests a great level of empathy. This type of person can feel what other people feel. That is why they are charitable, because they put themselves so easily in the place of others that they cannot go against that impulse. It is as if the evil that is being done to someone else is being done to them. Of course, the people of Pisces who are more spiritualized or developed, that would be the superior side of this sign. People that are capable of great sacrifices to help their fellows. So charity is always one of the Pisces vocations, and we will find many of them in the profession of social work. Another area that is ruled by Pisces and the planet Neptune, as we said, is art. So there are many artists in history that became very famous, especially musicians. Music is related to Neptune, who belongs to the sign. Not that all Pisceans are artists. In general, they have an outwardly sensitivity, It's different. It's said that Pisceans live submerged in their own world, submerged in the element of water, the world of emotions, which is a subjective world. And there enters another aspect that can be channeled either positively or negatively, which is the element of water that pertains to Pisces. The element that rules emotions, and Pisces have deep emotions, strong and deep. They're a very sensitive sign. So as I said, they feel others' pain. They can be great friends, and they can have a very high level of empathy, but can also end up being hypersensitive and letting themselves be influenced too much by their very own environment. The typical Piscean is like a sponge. They absorb a lot from the ambience. They're easily impressed. When something bad happens, they end up absorbing negative energies, or if people are desperate, it is easy for them to fall into this state. And the Piscean has to be careful not to absorb so much from the environment in order to have a stronger individuality, a stronger identity, because this is another aspect of Pisces. As Pisces represents the transcendence of individuality, when we become one with all humanity, sometimes Pisceans can feel lost without knowing very well who they are, what they came to do, and what their path is. And because it is a mutable sign, very adaptable, the Piscean can adapt to so many different circumstances. It is not by chance that there are many Piscean actors and actresses. This sign rules scenic art. They have the ability to transform into someone else. The Piscean lives the reality that they can be whoever they want to be. He can feel himself becoming someone else and can almost transport into somebody's life. That's why they make great actors. Thus, they can get lost and be a chameleon questioning who they are. Without their true individuality, this is the challenge for Pisceans, to find their way in their own criteria and not be so influenced by the environment. And when difficult situations appear, they have to be more rational so that emotions are not the whirlwind that ends up dominating the person because of their hypersensitivity. As we said in the beginning, Pisces is related with mysticism and spirituality. Of course, not all Pisceans are spiritual people. Maybe they don't have this inclination. But in general, this sign, this constellation, let's say, is the most spiritual and mystical. So there are many people of this sign who feel a call to connect with something higher, with something beyond the material reality. In general, Pisceans are not satisfied with material life. Being born, studying, working, getting married, having children. They feel an existential emptiness, a call, a longing. And even if they aren't spiritual, they feel this void and will go beyond because it seems that the material world, the matter, the material goods do not satisfy the Pisceans. That is why many dedicate themselves to art, to charity, and others will dedicate themselves in their area of work to find an escape from routine. Because Pisces is an idealistic sign that has a very, very strong imagination. This imagination is so powerful that it can also be a defect and end up not seeing reality because of this uncontrolled level of imagination. So Pisceans have to be careful to be realistic. That is a characteristic of the planet Saturn. Neptune represents something very different: fantasy and magical mysticism. And of course, if they channel this well, they can reach the maximum level of spirituality. Without a doubt, they do have a vocation for this. If it is not channeled correctly, it can drive them to addictions, Pisceans have a certain tendency to alcoholism and addictions in general. They can be addicted to television, to video games, movies, etc. It can happen to all of us, but in this sign, the desire to escape from reality can become the problem. So, to exercise realism, to accept things as they are, and not idealize things too much, is a very important thing for Pisceans to do. Because sometimes the Piscean is so romantic, lives in an ideal fantasy world, and sometimes when he sees the hard reality of life, the evilness of people, ends up hurting himself and wanting to escape from this reality. So they need to be realistic and at the same time never abandon the idealism, the romanticism that makes them search for art, for compassion, for the magic of life. Pisceans have the capacity to see magic in things. In a simple moment, they can see a wonderful sunset, a flower. They can achieve high levels of inspiration. They have the ability to do that. And to finish, let's talk a little bit about the opposite sign. The opposite of Pisces is Virgo, the Virgin, being logic and reason, and Pisces as sentiment. The Virgo sometimes gets so attached to the rules and details of things that he loses the general panorama. And as we talked in this video, the Piscean can see things from a more human point of view, more sensitive. So in a situation, he can see the feelings of the people who are at stake, and not necessarily the rule that they are disrespecting. Pisceans has this sensitive side that complements Virgo. But Pisceans need to learn from Virgos to have a more logical, rational, and also realistic look at things. As we said, they need to learn to be more organized, more detailed, to be more focused on productivity and efficiency, because sometimes the Piscean can live within their own world and become a disorganized person, someone that forgets, a very distracted individual, someone who does not pay attention to the real world, let's say, who lives in their own inner world. So this is something that Pisces can learn from Virgos. Learn to take commitments more seriously, to be a person a little more focused on efficiency and rules, which is something that usually they don't pay much attention to. And this is speaking of the typical Pisceans. But in general, in any area that we find a Piscean, because it is difficult to say what profession a person will have because of their sign, this does not determine the profession, but it determines the type of tendencies and feelings. So the Piscean will have that human look, that compassionate look, sensitive, artistic, and imagination. There are many movie makers, theater directors, actors, actresses, in short, people who can create a magical reality, who can inspire and take us to a higher state for higher emotions to create this. And they can feel that everyone understands, as long as they protect themselves and have a stronger individuality and psychological barriers to not end up suffering along with people when they do not need to suffer. So then they would be channeling positively this sensitivity. So this is the end of our Zodiac series. We would like to thank all of you for your attention, and please subscribe to our channels to see our videos. Share them with your friends. And thank you. We will see you next time.